Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Parker. It's Parker's Washable Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you are in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Kaweco brass sport with a broad nib. I wrote with it for a day and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to have some standardization, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in the first writing samples, although there is an additional writing sample with different papers later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to make sure I keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, but it does offer quite a bit of shading. Like the KER is much darker than everything around it. The K is much darker than everything around it. The S in washable is lighter than everything around it. The extra fine is a bit darker than the 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading. Like over works its way from light to dark. Brown goes from dark to light. Fox is a very nice dark word all the way through, and in lazy, the bottom of the Z is lighter than the rest of the word. It's nice shading. 11 seconds to dry. Now the medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and a ton of very nice shading. Quick starts dark, gets very light, gets very dark in there. Lazy starts dark, gets light. Medium, dark on the bottom, medium tone up into the Y, dark out of the Y. Very nice. 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no real color variation, despite the fact that we got plenty. Tomoe River, no bleeding. Really low Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 stub has no feather spread, halo sheen. It has spots of shading, like the K in both words, the B in blue, all darker. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we really didn't get it. And Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading spots. Again, the K's are both darker. The A and the bottom of the B are a bit darker. The extra fine is slightly darker than the 1.1 with no feather spread, halo sheen, and a lot of subtle shade spots. The T is a little bit lighter than the he. The Q is a little bit darker on the left, goes to a nice mid-tone, a little bit darker on the right. Brown starts dark, works its way light. Very nice. 13 seconds to dry. The medium is significantly darker than the extra fine with no feathers spread, halo sheen, but plenty of shading. Quick starts dark, becomes mid, and then a very dark tone again. Over starts dark and works its way light, and 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation, and we got plenty of color variation. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the right was done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And you see that it starts very light and pushes its way up, getting darker as it moves up. The one on the left, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see is it's like the first one flipped upside down. We have a dark blue line at the bottom, working its way much lighter as it pushes up. But it's called washable blue, so I'm not really expecting resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days, before testing it. I was pleasantly surprised looking at the highlighter. A whole lot more of this ink got left behind and stayed there than I really did expect. You could use it as a note-taking situation, just know that it's going to get quite light when you do use it. Strangely, water didn't completely remove it the way that I expected it to, but we do start to see a couple of white spots coming through, meaning water would likely be all that's needed to get this out of your pen. Pen Flush did everything that water did and a bit more. You are starting to see it be much lighter from the Pen Flush. That seeped its way down the side and it's all over. But more if you look directly above the water dot. Where it's very light there, that is also from the Pen Flush all the way up to where the word flush is. It went right, it was a whole disgusting mess on my part. But you can really see a lot that's gone. So if water didn't do it, Pen Flush would. Now 1/3 bleach solution, as you would expect, completely obliterates it, removes it from the page. There is no need to use a 1/3 bleach solution to get this out of your pen. I test ink viscosity with a tilt test that I'll link somewhere. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Parker Quink's Washable Blue has a viscosity of 1.22, holy God, near water. Yes, it's an insanely wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all of those. Now for the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Parker Quink Washable Blue has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it not just normal, but average. Now, this happened with Parker Quink's Black also, where it had an incredibly wet flow or viscosity, but its dry time was not just normal and average. It's something to do with the way that they are formulating their inks. Instead of finding inks that look like Parker Quink's Washable Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice black ink like Birmingham Pen Company's Emerald View Park Oxidized Brass. The second writing samples are done in the Vinta notebook, P. Berger, and Strathmore writing paper. Here we're taking a look at some more inexpensive or lower production quality of papers. This is the Modern Traveler or the Vinta notebook. You never know what to expect on this one. The extra fine, it does very well. The medium, you start to see it bleed in a little bit, tiny bit of ghosting that comes with it, but not too bad. Doesn't touch the page underneath. Probably wouldn't stop me from using the back of the page. The 1.1 stub has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 4 seconds to dry. The medium is significantly darker than the extra fine or the stub. Now, there is some feathering, minor feathering you see going on in the word quick and in brown and in lazy. So there is some feathering that occurs. It doesn't stop me from being able to read what's written there. There's no spread, halo, sheen, shade. 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. P. Berger, French ruled, student grade paper. The stub, it did pretty good. The extra fine, it bled in a little bit, nowhere near through. Could probably use the back of the page. The medium, it bleeds in deep a lot. Doesn't bleed all the way through. Would probably stop you from using the back of the page. Now the 1.1 stub has no feathers, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 4 seconds to dry. But the medium is a much darker tone with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 5 seconds to dry. As I'm looking at it, the word seconds, the SEC, looks like it has tiny bits of feathering in it, but nothing distracting at all. 5 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And Strathmore writing paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo, sheen, or shade. The extra fine is ever so slightly lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 5 seconds to dry. The medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine and quite a bit darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, and we didn't get it. And ladies and gentlemen, that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Parker's Washable Blue? This is a perfectly good go-to blue ink for many people. In fact, of the Parker inks, this is the one I enjoyed the most. Now, I enjoyed it the most. My problem would be with choosing this ink. There are just so many great blues out there. I don't think this is the one. Try a sample to figure that out. So what pen and nib give the best writing experience with this ink? And that's difficult because it is so different in tone based on the pen that you use that it's hard to say use a broad wet and it's going to give a much darker, because it's darker but not much darker. If you give a broad fine, you get that nice darker, but again, it's not a whole lot darker. Just beware the stubs on this one. I didn't find it that appealing to look at. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I'm going to remind you, if you enjoyed it, subscribe. Thanks for watching.